Hey, how are you guys? Today, one of the brothers has reached out in Facebook asking some questions for the first time. He was mentioning that this channel was recommended by one of his friends. Like many of you, he has reached out with set of questions. The difference here is that he has asked everything in English. As you know that whether you ask me in English or Sinhala, I reply in both the languages. But since this was a very long list of questions in English, got me to think that maybe I should be doing a video in English and answer these questions, so that if you had these questions in your mind, this would help you to clarify those doubts. And at the same time, because I haven't done anything in English, even though I have talked about PT, IELTS, and all of that, I thought of rather than just preach, doing a video and give you some sort of inspiration. So let's jump in to the question. You must be wondering what's the language that we speak at home. So just for your information, we speak at home Sinhala, and that was the case even when we were very young back in Sri Lanka. We learned English as a subject, but then with our graduation and all, we improved English. So I know that like so many of you who are migrating to Australia also have done the same, and probably you might be talking in English, so that's a big advantage for you guys. But others, they could simply follow some of this key tips I have given in IELTS and PT videos. So let's jump into this question, and I'm going to answer all in English. First question is, I'm confused on how to obtain Australian state sponsorship. So as you know that like Australian states have different mechanisms of giving sponsorship, and sometimes within the states also there are multiple streams, and for each stream there's an occupation list. So as long as your occupation is in the list, then you have to get a skill assessment and go through that process. And states have defined whether they are sponsoring offshore migrants or onshore migrants. So in that case, if you are applying from Sri Lanka, you need to make sure that your occupation is in the offshore migration list, and the state is willing to sponsor a person in offshore. So the second question is, should this be done separately via state website and then include onto the EOI profile? So the first things first is that you have to lodge a EOI for any of the visas. So you have to lodge a EOI and then go for the state websites and state processes in order to obtain a nomination or a sponsorship from the state. So it's not that you have to go to the state first. First of all, you have to lodge the EOI and then code that EOI in whatever the state mechanism that you go through, because end of the day all the Australian visas are issued by federal government. Lodging EOI is the first step in that process. The next question is, does our interest for a state sponsorship gets recorded automatically when we select a state while filling the EOI profile? So when you are filling a EOI profile, you can select what are the states that you want to apply for. And I have clearly stated that if you pick all the states, no state's going to select you. So the best thing is that if you want to apply for multiple states, you have to lodge multiple EOIs, because if you tick willing to go to any state, no state will pick you, because this has been clearly written on many state websites, and I have given enough examples in my videos. Fourth question is, do you think there will be a disadvantage if we select the any option during the state selection step? Of course, as I've just mentioned in the previous question, you should not be selecting any. Selecting any will be automatic disqualification. If you do select any, the only option that you have is the federal 189 visa. No state's gonna sponsor you. So make sure that if you are applying for a 190 visa or a 491 visa, just pick one visa from that state. As you know that 190 and 491 are both state involved visas, right? So in that case, you should not be selecting 190 visa and 491 in the same EOI, because if a state sees that is willing to be considered for both visas, then you have a higher chance of not getting picked to either of them. So those are the questions that he asked, and I'm thankful that he asked everything in very plain and simple English, and I thought this would be helpful for you guys also in case if you had any doubts. Thank you.